One of our favorite charts here on All In is this one. I can't get enough of it. It shows just how much Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has benefited from outside gifts. The bar, can I see where Thomas? Oh, there he is, right, yeah. The bar all the way on the left, that's it. That's Clarence Thomas. All the other Supreme Court justices are just all those little nubs. Clarence Thomas has received an estimated $4 million in gifts, much of which, as you see between those two colors, right, undisclosed and disclosed, almost half of which, maybe 40% of which, was never disclosed. And that's all that we know so far, by the way. There may be more undisclosed. Now, two Democratic senators who've been probing Thomas's gifts are asking Attorney General Merrick Garland to appoint a special counsel to investigate him, writing, "We do not make this request lightly. The evidence assembled thus far plainly suggests that Justice Thomas has committed numerous willful violations of federal ethics and false statement laws, and raises significant questions about whether he and his wealthy benefactors have complied with their federal tax obligations. Presented with opportunities to resolve questions about his conduct, Justice Thomas has maintained a suspicious silence." One of those senators is Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. He's chairman of the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Federal Courts, and he joins me now. Senator, what got you to this point? You have been obviously concerned with the obvious and apparent ethical lapses of this justice for a while. What brought you to this moment?
Really getting frustrated with the absence of any proper fact-finding at the Supreme Court and the refusal of Thomas through his lawyers to answer what I consider to be really basic questions, particularly with respect to the $250,000 loan for his motor coach, which it appears no principal was ever repaid on. And so the question is, what took place? And all his lawyers would say is that the terms of the agreement were satisfied in full, which, as you will recognize, are what lawyers would call weasel words that don't actually give you the facts. So having run up against that wall, we've now asked people with real investigative authority, the Attorney General, to look into criminal violations of the disclosure laws, false statement, potential felonies, and tax violations, potentially by Justice Thomas or by his donors and lenders.
You know, I want to just stay with that third thing for a second. In the case of the RV, this is the sort of land yacht RV that it's $250,000. He was loaned the money for it to purchase it by a wealthy benefactor who then subsequently, if I understand this correctly, forgave the entire loan with none of it being paid back. So essentially a gift. And again, I'm not a tax lawyer, but, you know, I got to do my taxes like everyone else. If someone gives you a $250,000 gift, like, I'm pretty sure you have to report that, right? Am I crazy?
There is a very clear and specific provision in the tax law and in the disclosure law that says that forgiveness of a debt is income and must be declared as such. And this was a debt. He borrowed $250,000 thereabouts, $267,300 to be exact, and he paid interest on it for a while. Then the interest payment stopped, and our information is that no principal was ever repaid, which means that in some fashion, that debt was either forgiven or somebody else stepped in and paid. And when there were no reasonable answers coming back from Justice Thomas, we just had to assume the worst. And so we've turned it over for proper investigation. But undoubtedly, the forgiveness of a loan, very simple language, anyone could understand it, is income for tax and disclosure purposes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just seems clear as a bell. In terms of this letter to Merrick Garland, I mean, I think he's going to blow you off, if I had to guess about Merrick Garland. So I guess the question is, where does this go? And one of the thoughts I had, and I don't think this is the right way to go, but I just want to lay out that the holding of the majority in Trump v. U.S., as written by John Roberts, is that Joe Biden could could instruct the Justice Department to open a tax investigation of Clarence Thomas tomorrow, and that would be fully within his constitutional power. Is that how you understand the holding of that as well?
Yeah, I think, frankly, it would be, even if he did it for a criminal purpose, even if he did it as a result of a bribe,
yes.
Even if he did it in order to commit some act of treason, it really didn't matter, that he would be protected in doing that.
I want to call your attention because I thought, it's hard to think about, well, how does this normally work? And I thought there was an interesting story out of Alaska in which a federal district judge in Alaska was accused of sexual harassment. There was a fact-finding undertaken by a panel of judges. There was a report issued. And ultimately, this judge, Josh Kindred, was asked to leave his post, and he resigned. Again, reports of impropriety, a fact-finding undertaken, a report issued, and a recommendation. And what was striking to me to read this was just, it isn't anything goes for the rest of the federal judiciary. You can't just take a $250,000 loan forgiven. You can't sexually harass your clerks. There is some mechanism of accountability for everyone else.
Your key words there were fact-finding undertaken. That's what the Supreme Court won't permit for itself. They're the only 9 people in all of government for whom that is true. If you go to state Supreme Courts, they are overseen by panels of lower court judges when there's a legitimate ethics complaint and there is a fact-finding procedure. Federal district judges, federal circuit court judges, they all have fact-finding. Fact-finding is kind of the essence of process of law. It's almost so basic in essence that you don't even think about it. So when these judges won't answer questions about what they knew about their wife's role in insurrection activities, or when they make false statements about what was the justification for flying MAGA battle flags, there's no accountability to the truth. And of all the people to be not accountable to the truth, Supreme Court justices would seem to be the worst of all.
Yeah. I will just say that when we have this table of likely undisclosed gifts, just a final point on the fact checking is just that this is the stuff we know about from reporting and other stuff. But again, it's not comprehensive. We don't know what we don't know. And it would be nice to have an actual comprehensive accounting of what exactly is going on. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse is seeking that. Thank you very much for your time tonight, Senator.
Thank you very much.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.